Hello and welcome to today's content, which is on Ibara since she has been released and she is currently, global original right now. So yeah, it's gonna be pretty new. We're gonna be taking a look at her and see if she is worth polling for. And yeah, without further ado, let's begin. So here we are for abilities. For Ibara specifically, she does have an introduction to a new main job, which is going to be called Demoness. As a base unit, she's going to get Hairpin Dart, Shrill Laughter, Izayoi, a Demonic Wail, Spiritual Possession, and her limit break, which is Malevolent Lightning, which is going to be very, very nice. As you can see overall, she has really strong single target abilities. However, her AoE, while it does have the Lightning in Peril, the modifier is much lower. As you can see, is at a max of 86% from Demonic Wail. For EX upgrades, however, Wailing Storm, which is going to be an upgrade of Demonic Wail, it's going to increase the damage modifier to a max of 121%, which is very nice to have. So yeah, having that EX upgrade is going to be very important. Additionally, her Spiritual Possession is now going to get buffed into the Fall of Night, which I will also say is extremely strong because it's going to increase magic attack by 25 and human killer by 25. That means against specifically human races, which is like a very large cast of the game, pretty much the very popular cast of the entire game, pretty much very, very popular. That means she has almost a 50 modifier attack buff if she uses the Fall of Night. Additionally, she does have magic resistance penetration by 40% for 3 turns as well. This is really, really strong for offensive buffs. And lastly, she is going to get Lightning Shroud, which is going to deal damage, but most importantly, it restores 200 CT to herself. 200 CT is about 20 out of 100 on the bar that increases CT, so that is actually pretty significant. So yeah, this is going to be very effective for her in general in terms of being a DPS. Basically, you really want her EX. If you're not going to EX her, she significantly loses a good amount of her utility and her damage. For her sub-jobs, for the Demoness sub-job, she's going to get Teeming Energy, which she's going to restore AP to herself, or Spirited Away, which she can switch positions with the target, and it does have a cast time. Keep in mind, all her main job abilities does not actually have a cast time, so yeah, this is pretty good and effective on her. For her other sub-job, and what I would arguably say is the best sub-job for her, is going to be the Blade Soul sub-job. Most importantly here is going to be Counterman Slash. She can reduce counter chance, so she can't get magic reflexed if she does use it. After, obviously, it can still proc on the first hit. She can reduce counter chance of the reaction abilities, and it has 30% hit chance, and it's AoE. So not only is this a magical slash damage for it also has good accuracy. This is gonna help because she does not have 100% hit abilities. Additionally, this is not even including the other abilities she has from this Blade Soul sub-job that has really good utilities, such as Slate Wiper. And lastly, we do have the Paladin sub-job. All I have to say, she does have Saintly Wall here, but I'm really disappointed she does not have Guts or Immortal Spirit, which is why I will already say the rating, she is not going to be a 5 out of 5 because she is missing a few things here that I'm already not too happy with, even though she does have a good kit overall. So before we carry on with the resistances and passives, I do have to say in the previous slide, just in case there are new players watching this, specifically, the Paladin sub-job does show Taunting Blade for 200% damage, and they're like, oh wow, this must be really good. Keep in mind, Paladin sub-job is specifically physical damage slash type damage, which is not good for Ibara at all. It's horrible. Blade Soul is magic damage that is slash type, which is very good for her. So that's why I did not really mention anything else about Paladin other than the Saintly Wall part. So just keep that in mind. Anyways, let's move on to resistances and passes. To damage types, she has -5% to slash, 15% to pierce, -10% to strike, 10% to missile, and 20% to magic. Overall, this is actually pretty solid. I will say the slash is a little bit concerning, however, she does kind of make up for it specifically with her other resistances, so it's not really something to worry too much about. Additionally, she has 10% AoE resistance as a unit, which is very, very good, so keep that in mind. Level 120, Master Ability included, she has 4 defense and 4 spirit. Her resistances to statuses, 50% to disable, thank god. That is amazing. 50% to confusion, not bad at all, and then 10% to frostbite, which we don't really see too much often, but I mean, it's not bad. At least she has something for that. Most importantly, I will say, is the disable resistance, very nice. For her Master Ability, she's going to have the, Mono Lightning Elemental one, as always. She has increased AP acquired for herself by 30% and her AoE resistance, which is why she has 10% as a base unit, as I said above up there. Now, I will say this isn't listed anywhere else. She is a demon race. She is not a human race. This means all those human killer and modifiers that people have on like Bahamut, Odin, all that, it does not apply to Ibara. This means that she will like tank more damage compared to the other like regular units. This is similar in the way of like how 2B and 9S are robots or machines, androids, and they're not human, so they also additionally take less damage from those like damage modifiers. So keep that in mind. She is a demon in this situation. She is a 3 move, 1 jump, 100 cost unit, so she is a bit pricey on the end in terms, I mean, unless you get her, then that's fine, but yeah, she will be 100 cost. Now for passives and what I would highly recommend, like no arguments, no like flexibility, I do believe you should be using Blade Soul Lore, mostly for the agility as well as the spirit penetration as a base amount. I think those two are just too important to her kit. You should be using it at all times. The other recommendations I can say that you can't really say, oh, is this going to be good? They will almost always be good or useful. It's either going to be Prayers of Humankind or Demon of Legend. Specifically, if you're going to face other human opponents and enemies, which there are a very large amount of, like literally 90% of the cast if not more, the Human Killer 20 modifier is extremely strong. I will say, however, Prayers of Humankind is also a very good mix for all matchups in general because you still get lightning attack modifier of 12 as well as 30% magic stat for herself. So yeah, you can't really go wrong for both of them for damage as long as you're hitting the correct opponents. Now, for niche and flex ones specifically, I will say Mind Body Unity is actually not bad. However, I can't always recommend it or say it's going to be more useful than the other ones in the recommended. This increase of spirit and HP is very nice, especially because of the spirit. She can get to a base of 16 spirit, which is very nice. I will say the Holy Knight's protection kind of is the same way as Mind Body Unity. However, as I said, both of these are going to be more specific to what opponents you are hitting and you know what you're hitting. So just keep that in mind. The others, you can't really go wrong with it. And then Niche and Flex is more if you're kind of, I guess, a more advanced user on understanding how you want her to behave as a unit. It also depends on the map, obviously. Now, let's go to reaction abilities. I will say the others are not really important. Use Alluring Smile. This is literally Magic Reflex at 20%, which is insanely good. This is very good. It's basically Magic Reflex. I would highly recommend it. If you don't want to, I guess you could use Preemptive Revenge. It does do magic / damage, but its range is very, very small as well. It's only like 1 or 2 tiles away, I believe. And then Paladin Guards is going to be specifically against physical damage opponents, which, I mean, if you are like fighting them specifically, Paladin's Guard would be very useful. And lastly, is a little bit new because she does have a new equipment coming out with her, kind of like how Elena did with her sword, basically. This is going to be basically the book for Ibara. And I will say, I'm not gonna lie, I will say if you pulled Elena just for the sword, I would not blame you because of the amount of units that can use it and its flexibility it allows. This book specifically for scholars, book users, and Ibara, I think is not, you don't really have to pull this, honestly. I mean, if you do pull Ibara, this is definitely gonna be her best like weapon book. However, if you wanted the book in general or think it's good, these are the stats pretty much. 192 magic, 8 accuracy, 4 critical rate. It's nothing impressive. The magic stat is a bit on the higher end, however, it's not like game-changing enough and it's not beneficial enough compared to what we're going to be getting in terms of books already out. Also for the passive effects, the magic attack and lightning attack up is going to be very nice. I will say this is not bad at all in terms of if you really need a book and you didn't farm one earlier, but if you want to pull her, in terms of Visior cost, I don't think it's worth pulling her just for the book, so just keep that in mind. This is, I believe, in the challenge like missions thing tab, so just keep that in mind. Overall, not bad, but it's nothing like you're gonna lose or like have FOMO over with. And here we are for Ibara's rating out of 5. In the end, I did end up giving her a 4.5 out of 5 for a lot of reasons, and I could not fit all the pros and all the cons that I could think about on this list because it'd just be too much text. So I tried to pick out the ones that I would remember the most in general. But yeah, overall, I do think she is a very solid pick if you grab her. However, I don't think you're going to be missing out too much. I will say, if you do happen to have a lightning team comp and you wanted a mage before the 100 cost the lightning Crystal of the Warrior mage comes out, she is actually insanely good to be used with him, like alongside. So yeah, they do have a very strong composition. Overall, as a unit herself though, she is very capable of dealing very high damage, and that's why I do place her as a 4.5 out of 5 in the end. So if you wanted to know that, hey, well, you can go and pull for her now if you wanted it. Other than that, if you aren't planning too much, to discuss like, oh, am I gonna die if I don't get her or something like that, you can skip her if you want to. So yeah, she definitely powers up a lot more if she's more specifically used in a lightning composition. In a way, she can be seen as like the lightning counterpart of like Helena in a way. Like, it's kind of weird to say that, but it's really true. Anyways, let's start with the pros. First off, she's able to become a good HP mage, because I do believe her total HP is at 3.8k, which is very high for a mage. With lightning imperils and increasing her own personal modifiers significantly, she is able to become a very good DPS mage. She has very high HP for a mage and a decent magic total, despite having a decent magic base and decent agility, however, but she can get around with a good amount of agility because of her passive from the Blade Soul. From here, the Fall of Night buff is one of the strongest offensive buffs in the game for mages in general, and it has 3 casts. For her specifically, this is literally giving her a 50 modifier buff, as well as giving her magic attack resistance penetration. There is not many units that can survive if she starts using this buff against them, especially if they fit the criteria of they have low magic attack resistance, like she has her own spirit penetration already, as well as if they are a human. That will be 50 modifier, and on top of that, she will be doing a lot of damage. She has access to both magic and slash attack types with good damage modifiers, with Blade Soul subjob having insanely good utility and has 40% spirit penetration on the passive as well. So yeah, she is no slouch in that department in terms of penetration in spirit. Same with magic attack type as well. If you build her enough with enough agility, her Lightning Shroud like EX ability can give Ibara another turn before the enemy can react, if she is fast enough and the enemy is slow enough. So yeah, it is definitely viable for her to kind of outpace people, so keep that in mind. It is very useful. Both her Limit Break and Wailing Storm can lower the lightning resistance, allowing for significant damage to be dealt. Because the resistance lowers before she hits, it is going to be very good for burst damage outright. Her Limit Break, which is Malevolent Lightning, lowers agility, attack, magic, dex, and luck, which is extremely effective against all units in general, since it targets all effectiveness of a unit. The agility, lowering the agility lets you get another turn before them, which is very helpful in terms of chaining and or just getting the attack off before you die instead. Lowering attack and magic is going to significantly reduce damage taken from enemies and overall. Dex and luck is a little bit on the weirder side, however, it innately not only lowers the critical evasion, but it also lowers the critical rate, as well as their accuracy and as well as their evasion. Keep in mind though, the stat lowering part of Malevolent Lightning has to hit the unit. The Lightning Imperil will go before it hits, and then if it hits them, it will lower their stats. But yeah, overall, this utility and how much it can be used is very, very useful as long as it hits the target. She doesn't really have any other mitigation for herself. However, she can use the re-raised TMR as well as Helena's TMR for her barrier. She also has the base AoE resistance of 10%, which can be built up to 20% very easily with just using her own vision card just slapped on. Very, very, very useful. Ibara is also considered a demon race, not a human race, so all those human killer modifiers that people have on Espers do not actually apply to her. I know it's a little bit niche to say that, however, if people are missing literally 25% plus modifiers onto a unit, and she's not taking that much damage because she does have AoE resistance as well, she will live considerably longer compared to most. While she does not have a 100% hit ability, she does have Countermand Slash on the subjob for 30% extra accuracy and its AoE damage, so it is going to be very, very helpful in that department in terms of hitting evasion units. She starts with 50% starting AP, so she doesn't necessarily need bells. However, she also has a 30% increased AP gain and has no cast times on her main job. This is huge because having no cast times means it cannot be interrupted. This is very, very nice to have. And lastly, but not least, it's just what I could fit on the slide, she has Magic Reflex and a 50% Disable Resistance. Those are insanely good on a unit overall. They're just so good. And now, enough talk about all her pros. Let's start talking about the negatives about her, because I feel like I guess I kind of hyped her up too much on the pros part, but let's talk about the negatives. First off, outside of her AoE resistance, 4 defense and spirit as a base amount is not too big to go off of. And with no other mitigation options, you really do not want Ibara to be in a 1v1 lane. And what I mean by that is that on maps specifically where AoE is not used too much as she can do a lot of single target damage, she can also die very quickly because her only mitigation option as a base unit is only her AoE resistance. So you have to keep that in mind. Both her base agility and magic are decent, but not in any new tiers of stats, and must rely on her imperils and modifiers for her damage. Unfortunately, her damage modifiers overall are kind of low. However, she does have abilities to not only increase her own modifiers, but she also has like some abilities that are already good modifiers. So basically, she can deal damage as long as she's landing her imperils and debuffs, so keep that in mind. Her paladin subjob has Saintly Wall, but that means no Immortal Spirit or Guts, and honestly, if they put that on her, I might have considered a 5 out of 5, but she also is missing a few other things. But I'm really disappointed they decided not to give her Guts. As a 100 cost unit, why would they not give her that? Even if it's on a subjob. Make it so that they have to pick between Immortal Spirit or the high utility of the Blade Soul subjob. Why would they not do that? Come on, like, I'm a little disappointed in that. Anyways, despite Counterman's extra 30% accuracy, it's still not 100%. Like, with the Santa Robe raid even out right now, evasion will be much harder to hit without guarantees. And what this means is that 30% is not 100%, unfortunately. You really want 100%. While she can hit evasion units with this more easily, without an actual accuracy or luck build, she is going to be missing more often than not, even with the extra accuracy. So yeah, you do have to keep that in mind. She can only use books as a weapon, which locks Ibara out of the staff and rod equipment utility. This means she can't use Cypress Pile for the magic attack resistance penetration. She can't use like other staffs for more damage, or like the Primus, I forgot what it's called, the Primus Laternus or something. The one that increases magic and lightning attack, she can't use that as well because she is locked to books specifically. Also, due to not having any barrier breaks or multi-hits for herself, barriers are highly effective against Ibara. If you have a barrier on a unit and you go into Ibara, she's going to struggle to kill it in one shot because she does not have something that will break the barrier outright. Magic attack resistance penetration is locked behind a buff, specifically the Fall of Night buff, which can be dispelled, so it's not going to be always reliable. So you do have to worry about that a bit. If you're going into an opponent that has very high magic attack resistance penetration and she does not have the Fall of Night buff on, she is going to be blocked out heavily in terms of damage as well. So you have to keep that in mind, because if you're in a smaller map situation where you do not get turns off, like for buffs, you do have to consider what is the best turn 1 buff. Would you rather have a damage buff like Fall of Night, or would you rather have like Immortal Spirit or something like that? You have to like kind of like think about that process. While her Fall of Night buff is extremely strong for offensiveness, it does mean she's going to be very vulnerable still. So you have to consider the value of everything overall. So yeah, because of that, she has to have that buff on if she wants to deal the max amount of DPS. Otherwise, she will be blocked out by magic attack resistance tanks overall. Being a demon race also has negatives. I will say it does not have many negatives, but the one negative it does have, specifically against Elena, is whose Suit Star Superstar Nova has a Demon Killer 25x modifier. Additionally, against dark units specifically, if Garvel or Helena use Diablos Esper with the Demon Killer node, it will do significant damage specifically to Ibara, so keep that in mind. Only starting 50% starting AP, even with her 30% acquired AP up, due to her high AP cost abilities, Ibara will need at least a few turns to generate AP from abilities and or TMR. Example being, the Fall of Night normally generates only 14 AP, it generates 18 with her master ability because of the acquired AP up. So only 4 AP is not going to make a difference to keep up in terms of her high AP costs in general, which were all around like 32, 36, 38, and her limit break being 58. She does need good AP because her starting AP is much lower than like Helena or like Yuna and stuff like that. So you have to keep that in mind. Her raw output, just like from her starting AP, is alright. However, if you're in any sustained fight or you only hit 1 unit and there's still 2 units alive, she'll run out of AP very, very quickly. Ibara's single target abilities hit extremely hard, and while her AoE can lower the lightning resistance like the Wailing Storm, I believe, you cannot expect the same effects like Helena, as her larger AoE abilities from Ibara have very low modifiers. I believe, as we said, her EX upgrade for that is going to be 121%, even with the resistance down. If we compare it to Helena specifically, Helena not only has that large super AoE, it also lowers the resistance as well, and it has a very high modifier. You have to keep that in mind. Ibara specifically has a lower modifier compared to Helena in that 1-to-1 circumstance. And lastly, but not least, To wrap it up, Ibara is a really strong mage, like Helena, but for elemental resistance. Not resistance, elements specifically for lightning teams. She is lacking some important meta significances, unfortunately, and I will talk about it very soon. But luckily, for her missing features, it can be covered in the future by future units. There are new lightning units that can cover her weaknesses, as well as providing for her to deal even more damage as well. So she does have a very good longevity or future situation. It's going to be very valid. To be more precise, specifically for the meta significances that she is missing, she's missing a barrier break, guts and re-raise dispel, 100% hit, and her own type of mitigation for survivability outside of AoE resistance as a base unit. Obviously, if you put Helena TMR or re-raise TMR on her, she could definitely do more work with it. However, as a base unit, she is missing a few of those core things, so it is important to note that. And lastly, let's talk about her TMR. The TMR chase rating, I did put her as a 3.5 out of 5. It is Ibara's hairpins, which is an accessory type. The HP is definitely on the low end. The magic is kind of so-so if you're using her weapon already. And the accuracy is only 6. So stat-wise, the hairpin is not that great. However, the active effect, especially depending on like what map it's going to be used, in terms of very short maps that you only get 1 turn's value out of, the Delightful Demon effect, the active effect, is actually going to be very, very cheesy, but also niche, useful in the niche that it can be used in, because 100% increased magic stat is a lot. And the move +1 is going to definitely help Ibara reach farther ranged enemies more quickly. This is very good. The reason why it's not rated higher, however, is that it only has 1 cast and it only has a 24 TP cost, which is not going to generate as much AP as well. So that's why overall the TMR chase rating, if you really want it, I do believe it's a 3.5 out of 5. Overall, this is the rating for Ibara that I believe is going to be a solid 4.5 out of 5. She's missing a few key things to take her up to a 5, and she has enough to keep her from being lower than a 4.5. But because she is meeting the rating pretty much, we do have an example slide for her. Well, I do. Sorry, I keep saying we, but yeah. Let's go to it. And here we are for my example setup for Ibara. Before we talk about all the stuff on the right side, let's talk about the team composition first. First off, we have Cloud, who is going to be very strong, and specifically that vision card is going to defensively give Ibara slash resistance. From here, we have Charlotte, who is not only the frontline tank, but also basically the tank for lightning units currently, one of the best. She's going to be using Frederica's Dream specifically for the missile resistance for Ibara. And now we have Ibara with her own vision card, which is Wish Upon a Demon, I believe. Not only is it going to give her more spirit penetration, so her base amount will be 60%, it's also going to give her a human killer modifier. Additionally, it also has AoE resistance, and you know what all these units can get? AoE resistance. Cloud can easily reach, he starts with 10, this vision card gives him another 10, he's at 20. He uses Ibara's vision card in the party, he's at 40, he can use Brigadine. That is 50% AoE resistance for Cloud outright, right there. And then Charlotte as well can use Brigadine, she will be at 30% AoE resistance if she does use that setup. So as you can see, if they ball up together, they definitely can be very, very hard to take down in terms of slash and missile opponents overall. And now, future stuff to consider, very important. The Crystal Warrior of Lightning is able to dispel guts. He can lower magic attack resistance for Ibara. He has 100% hit and can break, protect, and shell. This is a lot in one single unit. While he does not have the same kit and imperils as Ibara, he covers her weaknesses and what she's missing. Additionally, with the new unit Queen from Persona 5, Queen is not only able to dispel re-raise, she can spirit debuff, so the penetration does not even matter too much. She can heal her team as well, and she could break all barriers. She is a very good beefy bruiser frontliner if they need it into lightning comp. So yeah, in terms of future units to team up with, Ibara has a very good future to look out to. Additionally, another magic-based lightning vision card if you don't want to specifically get her own vision card, which I would say, why would you not? It has the AoE resistance. This is very nice. You do have Blossoms in the Dark vision card, which is specifically for a magic lightning based team to deal more damage as well. And then we also have the new Mecha vision card that came out with the Crystal Warrior of Lightning specifically, which can also increase the agility for the team specifically, as well as more magic damage overall. So yeah, she does have a good setup right now, and she has a good offensive setup in the future as well. And lastly, we do have to talk about weaknesses. Earth DPS overall and single target moves will deal significant DPS to Ibara. Keep in mind, Ibara does have good AoE resistance, as well as in terms of single target, she doesn't have too much right now at least, but I mean, she does have good at least pierce resistance overall. So that's why I specifically did not put Oberon, even though Oberon can do good damage to her. Specifically though, I will say Zazan and Frederica, if Ibara is not running slash resistance, those two will be very good against her, not only because they are super evadey, but because they also have good slash damage and single target specifically. They will do very good damage to Ibara. And now we have the two units that are not only very spirit tanky, but also have decent magic attack resistance and lightning resistance as well. Winter Venera and Noctis are both also very good into Ibara because they both have not only earth strike type damage. Venera is probably going to be Ibara's worst enemy because not only is Venera has very good tanking capabilities against her specifically, because Ibara's main weakness is strike and earth. Guess who fits both of those bills and tanks against her? Winter Venera. While we don't see Winter Venera a lot right now, in terms of her master ability number 2 that she got as a buff in Japan, if that came over here, that will be a danger to Ibara for her future longevity in terms of like what she has for units that can potentially counter her. And Noctis, I don't even have to explain this. Not only can he put Shell on himself, you can put, actually I don't know Shell, I think it was Spirit. Yeah, it's Spirit. He can put Spirit for himself to get a very high amount. He has Strike Earth type damage. He also has Slash or Pierce if he really needed to. So he is very capable of taking out Ibara very quickly because he also has good single target abilities. And yeah, that is basically the end of the video and my unit review of Ibara. I hopefully this helped you guys. And yeah, as always, since we come to the end of the video, please leave a comment, like, and or subscribe. And until the next one, peace out.